Hey loopers, Melissa here with LovableLoops.com. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take my basic hat or beanie pattern and turn it into a Rainbow Brite wig. I'm going to link to this below, but on my blog, I have a very basic and easy to follow beanie pattern. It shows you how to make my pattern in preemie size, 0-3 months, 3-6, 6-12, toddler, child, and adult. I will link to that pattern below. And what you'll want to do is just use yellow worsted weight yarn and an eye crochet hook and follow the pattern for whichever size you want to make the wig for. You are also going to need for this tutorial an age 5mm crochet hook, and then you're going to need strips of yellow yarn, also worsted weight. So it's going to be the same yarn that you used to make the basic beanie. Now I have pre-cut this just to save time because it is a bit time consuming, but you are going to want to cut a good handful of yarn that is 36 inches long. And the idea is that when you fold it in half like this, this will be the thickness of the ponytail for your Rainbow Brite wig. Okay, so that's 36 inches strips that are 36 inches long. Okay, and then you are also going to want to cut some strips that are approximately 6 inches long, doesn't have to be exact, of yarn that are going to be used to make the bangs for Rainbow Brite. And then the red and blue worsted weight yarn is going to be used to make the star and the ribbons for her hair bow, as you can see here. Okay, so to start, we're going to start with the bangs. So what you want to do is you want to find your join seam on your hat, which you can see here. You're going to want that to be in the back. Now I like to make the bangs at the front of the hat from about one side to the other, so like the front half of the hat. Okay, so go ahead and fold your hat like that, and you can just use a couple stitch markers to mark the two sides. So you'll be making your bangs in between these two stitch markers. Okay, and for the hat, depending on what size you're making, so this is going to be a toddler size hat, I'll probably end up doing 3 rows of bangs, but if you're making a smaller hat like a preemie or for a baby, you might want to just do 2 rows. So you'll have to just see how it looks. So what you do is you take your crochet hook and you have your bowl again of your 6-inch strips of yarn, and you're going to put your crochet hook around the stitch. Okay, and you have your yarn folded in half in this hand. Okay, loop that onto the hook and pull that yarn through. Okay, so now you have the loop on one side of the stitches, it's passed through underneath, and you have the ends on the other. You're just going to pass those ends through, pull it tight, and then knot it. Just like that. You're going to go ahead and do that all the way across for that row. Now, the reason I use 6-inch strips, because obviously this is too long for the bangs. If you use shorter yarn, it is sort of hard to work with because you have to pass it through and tie it off. It makes it harder to work with. So I think it's worth it just to cut it a little bit longer and then trim it when you're done. Okay, so you just pass it through and then tie it off. So again, I put my crochet hook under that stitch. I fold my strip of yarn in half, pass or pull that yarn underneath the stitch, and then I pass the 2 yarn ends through that loop, and then go ahead and tie it off. Okay, and go to the next stitch and do the same thing. If you want the bangs to be fuller, you can do this using 2 strips of yarn at a time. That's typically what I do. I use the same method for making my mane on my unicorn, and then the bangs for my llama hat. And I'll do, I haven't made my llama hat in a while, so I forget if I used 1 or 2 strands, but I definitely used 2 strands for my unicorn mane. So I double up. But I think for the Rainbow Brite wig, 1 of them at a time is enough. Okay, so just pull that yarn underneath that stitch, loop those yarn ends, pull them through, and then make sure you tie. You don't want them to work their way undone, so just take the time to tie it off. You can see why it's easier to cut all of your yarn ahead of time, because you don't want to have to stop and cut yarn in between each of these. For me personally, I feel like it goes much faster if your yarn is pre-cut. Okay, and just continue repeating that all the way to the end. Pass your crochet hook under the stitch, loop your yarn in half, pull the yarn underneath that stitch, loop past the yarn ends through the loop and pull, and then tie the 2 yarn ends in a knot. Okay, go ahead and do this until the end of this row, and I will meet you back up after that to start the second row. Okay, as you can see, I have completed my first row of the bangs. Now they are much longer than they're going to end up being. I'm going to trim them at the end, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and do my second row. So I'm going to show you here. You can see I went from one end to the other, so between those 2 stitch markers are where I made all of the bangs, and now I'm going to move up a row to that next row of double crochet. Oop, and actually I want to start on this side. It's easier for me to work from left to right. So I'm going to move up a row to that next row of double crochet, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to pass my crochet hook underneath that stitch, fold my yarn in half, pull it underneath the double crochet, and then I'm going to pass those yarn ends through the loop, tug on it, and then tie those yarn ends into a knot. Okay, and you're just going to work again. Do that for each double crochet all the way across, and I have a feeling that that might be enough bangs for this toddler size, but we'll see at the end. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I'll meet back up with you afterwards. Okay, now that you have completed the second row, we are going to trim the bangs. Now what I like to do is I don't like to take a big section and snip it at a time, because then it looks a little too blunt or too much of a straight line. So I like to take a couple strands, like maybe 2, 3, or 4 at a time, and then just trim them. Let me get my tape measure here. I'm gonna say to about 1 inch long, okay? And I typically will try to do it at an angle, not straight across again, so that you don't have those straight lines. And they don't all have to be exactly the same length, but just go ahead and trim all of those yarn ends. And they're going to be sticking out a little bit everywhere, and that's okay. It sort of adds to the look. Makes it fun. I also have a tutorial on a Rainbow Brite costume. I'll link to that below if you want to make a costume to go with your wig if you don't already have a costume. I think 2 rows of bangs is good too for this. If you guys decide to make this wig I would love to see pictures. It makes me so happy when I see my pictures of my crochet patterns, especially if your little ones are wearing the items. So I have my Instagram link below if you want to share a photo with me there. Or you could always hop over to my blog where I'm fairly certain you can email me if you don't want it to be a photo that everyone can see. All of that is linked below. Okay, and you can just go back through and trim it up a bit more if you feel like any of the pieces are too long. Okay, but I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and make the star and the 2 ribbons for her bow. And after that, we'll attach the ponytail, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. And then we'll add the bow to the ponytail, and then you're done. Okay? All right, so now for the bow. For the star, you're going to need an H 5mm crochet hook and some red worsted weight yarn. I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in the color Red Hot, or Hot Red, excuse me. All right. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to chain, so make a slip knot and chain 2. 1, 2. Okay. In the second chain from your hook, this one right here, you're going to make 5 single crochet. 1, all into that same space. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of your first single crochet. So insert your hook into that single crochet, find your working yarn, pull it through that single crochet and again through the loop on your hook. Okay, so you just made your slip knot, excuse me, your slip stitch. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? In the second chain from your hook, this chain right there, you are going to you're going to slip stitch in the second chain from your hook. So 1, 2, you're going to slip stitch. Okay, in the second chain from the hook, and then in the next chain, so in that third chain from your hook, which is the first chain that you made, you are going to single crochet. Okay, so you just made the first point of your star, and now you're going to slip stitch in the next single crochet on your round, which is this one right here, and you're going to repeat that. Okay, so you made the first spoke or spike, whatever it's called, of your star. So now you just made your slip stitch to the next single crochet on your round, so you're going to repeat the process. Chain 1, 2, 3. In the second chain from your hook, you're going to slip stitch, and then in the next chain, you're going to single crochet. Okay, now your second spoke is made. Once again, slip stitch to that next single crochet on your round and chain 3. 1, 2, some more yarn here, and 3. Slip stitch in the second chain from your hook. Okay, and then in the next chain you're going to single crochet, and you just made the third spoke. Again, slip stitch to the next single crochet on your round, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the second chain from your hook, and then single crochet in the next chain. Okay, and you just made your fourth spoke, slip stitch in the next single crochet on your round, chain 3, 2, 3, slip stitch in that second chain from your hook, single crochet in the next chain. You just made the fifth and final spoke of the star, so now you're going to slip stitch once again And you can slip stitch. It looks like this is the first single crochet here that we had made our first spoke on. Just slip stitch to join. Okay, so your star is done. So now what you want to do is you want to leave enough yarn to finish off. Okay, so your star is complete. You can set that aside for now. And now you're going to need your blue yarn. We are going to make the ribbons. Okay, so once again, you're using your H 5mm crochet hook, your worsted weight yarn in blue. Go ahead and make a slip knot, and you're going to chain 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops. That happens to me all the time. Okay. 5. Okay, now I know this darker yarn is hard to see on camera. I try to avoid that as much as I can, but these colors, just had to use a blue. So go ahead and in the third chain from your hook, you're going to make a double crochet, okay? And then in each remaining chain, you are going to make 1 double crochet. I didn't want my ribbons to be too spirally. If you want them to look more like a spiral, go ahead and put 2 double crochet in each chain, and that will make it curl up more. I wanted them to just have a slight curve to them, which they do when you just do 1 double crochet, and I was happy with that look, so I just put 1 double crochet in each. Okay, now you're going to use the ribbons to attach the entire bow to the hat, so make sure you leave plenty of yarn there. Finish off, and as you can see, the ribbon does curl a bit, and you're going to want to make 2 of those. So go ahead and make another one, and then we'll meet back up to make the ponytail. Okay, so now we are ready to make our ponytail. What you want to do is you want to take all of that yarn that you cut. Remember, this was strips of 36 inches. And you want it folded in half, and then try to smooth it out as smooth as possible, okay? All right, and for the ponytail, you're going to need 3 loose strips of yellow yarn. So take that first strip, or one of those strips of yellow yarn, and what you're going to do is where you have this ponytail folded in half, you're going to pass that strip of yarn underneath, like that. Okay, so this is folded in half. You're going to go ahead and knot that. And you want to pull it tight, but don't snap it because your yarn could rip, and you don't want that to happen. Now I like to pass the yarn through to the other side and do the same thing on the other side because I like to make sure it's very secure. And now that that's secure, you won't be able to see this, but off camera, I'm just going to shake this out to get all of these strands of yarn as straight as possible. Okay, so go ahead and do that, since they do tend to get tangled up. Okay, so now you're going to hold your yarn like this so you can see the two halves. This is in the center. We're going to attach this part to the top of the hat, okay? And I'm going to put one of those yarn strands. So I have these two strands here. One of them is going to go through the very center of my magic ring right there, and the other one is going to go over here between two stitches. I will pull them both through, and then I will tie them off on the inside to secure the top of the ponytail. So you'll need a tapestry needle for this. Okay, so thread one of those yarn ends. I'm going to pass that through the top. Okay, and then thread the other yarn end, and then I'm going to pass that here between two stitches just to the left of where the center is of the magic ring, where I pass the other yarn end through. Okay, all right, now I'm going to go through to the middle of my hat, and I'm going to tie those off. And again, you want to pull them snug, but just be careful not to snap them. If you do that, it will rip. I've done that before and it's not fun. And so that these don't get in the way of tying our bow on, I'm going to go ahead and weave in these ends just to have that done with, because I don't think weaving in ends is anybody's favorite part. So just get those out of the way. Okay, cut those ends. Okay, so now you have the top of the ponytail attached. Now we need to attach the side, but as you can see, this got tangled up, and I really want it to be as smooth as possible. And what we're going to end up doing is we are going to attach approximately halfway down this to the middle of the hat, and then we'll tie off the bottom and secure it to the hat. That way the ponytail stays as a side ponytail on the side of the hat. So go ahead and shake your ponytail out now to the side. And again, I'll have to do that off camera. Okay, so go ahead and find how far down you want to go, about halfway down, and grab another one of those yarn ends. Or not yarn ends, one of your scrap pieces of yellow yarn, tie it around that portion of the ponytail. Okay, so that'll work. Okay, go ahead and tie it snug, knot it, and then do the same thing on the other side of the ponytail. You want to make sure this does not come apart. Tie that nice snug, double knot it, and then back to the front of the hat. Okay, and what we're going to do is we are going to, where did my other, here we go, here are my two ties. Lost those. We are going to pass those ends of the tie through the hat to attach it to the side of the hat here, okay? So you have these two. So let's find the middle here. Let me get a stitch marker. Okay, so when you're holding the hat like this, looks like we want to attach this part of the ponytail right here. I'm just going to put a stitch marker here so I know exactly where, so I don't lose my spot. I'm going to locate those two ties. Oops. Okay, that was not the tie that I just pulled on. Sorry about that. Here we go. I lost those for a moment. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put these on tapestry needles so I don't lose that again. So I'm going to pass one, you're going to do around one of the stitches here. So I'm going to pass one through one side and then the other needle, the other tapestry hook through the other side of that stitch that I marked. I'm going to go into the inside, pull both of those through. Okay, so I have the yarn, the tie, gripped on the inside, and then I'm going to try to straighten out the ponytail, make sure it looks nice and neat. Okay, all right, go back to the inside, pull those two yarn ends nice and snug, tie them off. You have them around a crochet or stitch, so you can tie them off. I like to make sure everything's really secure, so I have a tendency to over knot things. All right, and then just weave those ends in. Okay, trim, and then weave the other end in. And trim it. Okay, now go back to the front of your hat. And you want to make sure this ponytail right here is nice and neat, okay? So now what we're going to do is attach the bottom of the ponytail. Okay, so you're going to grab that last scrap of yellow yarn that you have, and you're going to find out where the bottom of your ponytail, or where your ponytail meets the bottom of the hat. And that's where the last scrap of yarn is going to go. Make sure that hair is all nice and straight, the yarn. And then go ahead and tie it off. I'm gonna double knot mine again. And pass it to the other side and do the same thing. And make sure it's really secure. Okay, and now I am going to, oops, did I lose that again? Here it is. Okay. Yeah, be careful. It is hard. If you, it's all, I mean, all the yarn is yellow, so it all matches each other. So be careful with that scrap yarn that you're using. Okay, so now I'm going to attach this part to the very bottom of the hat. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to locate where you left off with the bangs and then attach. So it's going to, mine looks like it's going to end up about 2 or 3 rows up. Just attach it right there, right after that last row of bangs. Okay, so I'm going to attach this one here. And then this side is going to go on the other side of that stitch. There. And so that's what it looks like from the front. Okay, so your ponytail is securely attached to the side of the hat. You're going to go on the inside and then tie those yarn ends off and weave in those ends. So now you are done with the ponytail part. And then what you'll want to do is you'll want to comb all that hair straight down and then you'll trim it. Okay, so I'm not going to do that right here on camera because what I'd like to do is hold the hat straight up and down and make sure that it's very straight. But what you'll do is you'll hold your hat up and make sure the hat is puffed out just like as if it were sitting on someone's head. And then just take a big pair of scissors and just make a nice straight cut across the bottom of the ponytail, okay? All right, now for the bow. Take your star and you're going to weave in those ends. So pick a side. Let's see here, so this is the wrong side where my yarn tail from the middle is hanging. So I'm gonna pass this piece of yarn through to the other side and weave it in. Go ahead and tie these two pieces together just because I like to always make sure everything's very secure. And then weave that end in, trim it, and then do the same thing with the other yarn tail. Just weave it in and trim it. Okay, so now grab your two blue ribbons, and what I like to do is I'm going to pick the top of this star. So look, this is a little imperfect here, so I'm going to go ahead and place a ribbon down here and have this be the top. That way you don't see that as much. And the star, the ribbon is going to get attached from this side like this, because you want the star to be on the front so that you see the entire star. So now this is the front, this is the right side of your ribbon, this is the wrong side. The wrong side is what curls in, okay? So take your tapestry needle, take one end of the ribbon, and again, I wanted this on the bottom here, so that's the top of my star. I want to attach the ribbon here. So I'm gonna flip my star over and weave this ribbon in on the back side of the star. So you don't see it from the front, but it is attached to the back of that star. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this yarn end on the bottom spoke here. So my ribbon is attached to this spoke and this spoke, and then I'll do the same thing with the ribbon on the other side, to this spoke and this spoke, okay? And then we'll attach it to the top of our hat. Make sure when you attach the yarn end to the star that you can't see it from the front. You don't want that blue peeking through. You're just working through the back of the star. Okay, just like that. And then we will use these yarn ends to tie it to the top of the wig. Okay, so go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. Okay, and I'm going to make sure you can't see that from the front. Okay. And then this end. Okay. So we have the two ribbons attached here, and you can't see them from the front, okay? Now I'm going to tie each set of ribbons off. So these are the two yarn ends from one side. I'm going to tie them together. Not too tightly because you don't want to make that star pinch in. Okay, so that looks fine from the front, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Okay. And then I'm going to pass both of those yarn ends. I'm going to thread them onto my tapestry needle from one side. And I'm going to pass my tapestry needle. We want to cover the front of this here, so I'm going to pass those through on this side. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I have this side of the star like this, And then those two ends will get passed through over here. Okay, so thread those other two yarn ends onto your tapestry needle. Okay, and then pass them through on the other side in front of the ponytail. And go ahead and pull everything tight. Okay, and now you have your star with the ribbons on the front of your hat. Okay, and you can mess with this and adjust it. You can, if you pull on it, you can make it less curly and adjust it around. Okay, and then all you'll do is just go on the inside and tie off those yarn ends from the inside and weave in your ends. Okay, all right, and that's it. And then make sure you remove those stitch markers, and then you're all done with your Rainbow Brite wig. Okay, and again, I have my basic beanie pattern. I'll link to it below. It's on my website for all sizes, and then you really just follow the same basic method for making for turning each beanie size into a Rainbow Brite wig. I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hop on over to my blog and subscribe to my email list, so I'll send you notifications of new written patterns as well. All right, thank you.